Hi, this is Joe again with another review. I know it's been a long time since I did a movie review, but I'm going to do it here. And of course, since we're now in the month of October in 2023, I figure more appropriate to do a horror movie, or at least a horror movie franchise, which I'm going to do here. I'm just going to do an overview of the whole three movies and give you my impression of it, and that's the Scream movies. So of course, Neve Campbell, Courteney Cox, and soon-to-be husband David Arquette, who of course Courteney Cox eventually marries. Of course, this movie series was also directed by Wes Craven, who was his way of saying "F you" to the slasher movie genre, which he was responsible for putting in the third member of the Holy Trinity of slasher films, or slasher movie villains, back in the 80s when he directed Freddy Krueger in the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie back in 1985, which completed the whole, like I said, the Holy Trinity of slasher movie villains. So now, when he directed the first Scream movie, which came out in 1996, it was like the slasher movie genre pretty much was ran its course by then. Even though he had a couple of reboot sequels in terms of the Halloween movie, because eventually you had Rob Zombie directed his two reboots of the Halloween franchise. You have a reboot of the Friday the 13th. You also had a reboot of Nightmare on Elm Street with Jackie Earle Haley, Kelly Leak from the Band of Bears films in the 70s, playing Freddy Krueger, and in the reboot of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, which, like I said, Wes Craven directed. Now he's directing a series of movies that kind of, it's more like a parody of the, even though it does take a serious tone, but it does come off as a horror movie parody. That's not the best way I can describe it. A parody of the slasher movie genre, in which the first one really was, and really. And it made notice how, quote, bad the slasher movie genre was back in the late 70s and throughout the 80s, where you said, oh, somebody trips up the stairs, kill them now. That type of thing. Or instead of running out the door, they run up the stairs and they trip on the steps and they get killed. They made all those types of jokes throughout, particularly in the first Scream movie. And of course, you see all that stuff happens in the first Scream film, and you do see it occasionally in the other two films in the series. Of course, the series is the point of view of Neve Campbell's character, who is established that her mother got killed, and the killer did end up killing her mother, even though that happens. You never see it on screen, but he's mentioned, oh, I killed your mother because your mother threw them out with my father. And that was the motivation that the killer had of killing, not going after Neve Campbell's character, but everybody that she cares about. And of course, you also make the joke, so anybody who has sex gets killed. And also, I should mention that you have some pretty big names that ends up being murder victims throughout the three films. The first Scream film, which came out in 1996, you had the first 15 minutes, you had the opening teaser sequence with Drew Barrymore, who already was a big star at that time for being in E.T. when she was like 6 years old, and to see her as the first murder victim in Scream, which was crazy, and I thought it was a very, very good, tense, and you know what's going to happen. You know Drew Barrymore's character was going to get killed, but it was kind of funny. They put in, oh, who was or the killer constantly calls Drew Barrymore on the phone, and it was kind of creepy when that was happening. And he goes, oh, who was the killer in the first Friday the 13th, in Friday the 13th? In the original Friday the 13th movie. And she goes, oh, it's Jason. It's Jason's the killer through all the movies. And he goes, wrong. And he actually spoils it for those of you who never seen the very first Friday the 13th movie that came out way back in 1980. The first killer was not Jason Voorhees. It was Jason's mother, Mrs. Voorhees, who was the very first killer, and then Jason was the killer throughout the rest of the movie series. So it's just it's an interesting. Everybody always thinks it's Jason from the old movie series, but it's not true. It's actually Jason Mrs. Voorhees who was the killer in the first movie. So if you ever watch the first Scream movie, you see who. If you never seen Friday the 13th, but if you were watching the Scream movies, you know who the original killer was. So it kind of pokes fun of that film, and also not only that, but you also see them. In the very first Scream movie, they had a party, and they're watching the very first Halloween film, and they talk about, oh, how come, and one person, oh, how come Jamie Lee Curtis didn't show off her boobies in the first movie? And said, oh, because she didn't really show off her body until she did Trading Places, like 5 years later, after the first Halloween, which is true. She does do a nude scene in the first, in the movie Trading Places. But in the Halloween films, you didn't see any nudity from her. You see nudity from all the other characters, but not her. Which is also another piece of trivia. And she became known as a Scream Queen because of this movie. She was in Terror Train, which I never seen. Plus of course all the Halloween films that she has done over the years. But long story, I know I'm getting sidetracked. But it's interesting to see Drew Barrymore in the first 15 minutes of the first Scream movie, and also later on in the first Scream film, you also see Rose McGowan, who is of course drop dead gorgeous, and she of course later on, about 5 years later, appeared in the television show Charmed. She took over the role that after Shannon Doherty left Charmed. Her character was killed off. Rose McGowan came in and she stayed on the show for the rest of the original show's run. And don't watch the reboot of Charmed. It's terrible. but otherwise, she also gets killed in the first movie, and in the second film you had Sarah Michelle Gellar, who was established already for playing Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She gets killed in the second movie. And in the third film, you had Jenny McCarthy. So you have some pretty big names who end up being in these movies. Of course, previously, in the slasher movie genre started back in the 70s, and really kicked off, with Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Black Christmas back in the early 70s, and then of course Halloween at the end of the 70s. You really didn't have big name stars who ended up being murder victims. Until of course the Scream movies, and then you have big name actresses getting killed in these movies, and that kind of started the genre and the reboot. And the thing that I find it funny was in the first Scream movie they made reference to, oh, there's possible to make a movie about your life, and Nev Campbell says, yeah, anybody but Tori Spelling. I know what Tori Spelling playing me in the movie. And then the next movie that comes out, Scream 2, you actually do have Tori Spelling playing the Nev Campbell role in the second, when they made the movie, and of course Stab. They renamed the movies, the movie within the movie, Stab, was supposed to be based on what happened in the first film. And then they eventually made a whole series of Stab movies to spoof the spoofing, in the Scream movies. And you did have Tori Spelling playing a character in Nev Campbell's character in the movie within the movie, which was kind of funny because it made references to her, Tori Spelling in the first film, and you see her in this film. And of course, when Scream 2 came out in 1988, Beverly Hills 90210 was still on the air, still showing new episodes at that time. So it's kind of funny to see Tori Spelling out of that role, the Donna Morn character in 90210 to play a different character, which is pretty funny in my part. It's pretty funny to notice that. But to the Scream films, even though this was literally the first time I watched the Scream films, because I thought it was just a parody of the slasher movies I grew up with. And it is. I mean, I'm not saying it isn't, but I thought it was more entertaining than I thought it was going to be. I was very impressed with it, and it's, you know, even though I haven't seen all the Scream films, including the, you know, the recent reboots, but the first 3 Scream movies, I thought it was quite entertaining. I thought it was a bit. No, I mean, each movie is about like 2 hours long, which is about maybe a half hour longer. At least 20 or 25 minutes longer than normally should be. Because usually these slasher films usually maybe an hour and a half to an hour 40 minutes tops. So the Scream movies, I feel, is like at least 20 minutes too long. Between 20 and 30 minutes too long. But it's entertaining for what it is, and if you like, you know, the slasher movie genre, you will like Scream, because it, like I said earlier, it pokes fun of these movies, and I know if I could make myself watch these movies and actually enjoy them, you can actually enjoy them too, and I feel that's, like I said, it's really positive. I mean, it was pretty good. I mean, I'm not gonna trash these movies. I think the third movie was getting tired, in my opinion. By the time I made the third movie, I thought and this was like the third film in the series, I think it was already getting tired. You already know where the story is going to go. You know it's going to be twists up the wazoo, twists up the nose. And by the time you get to the third film, but I thought it was quite entertaining for what it was, and I did enjoy it. I thought Neve Campbell was good. I thought Courteney Cox was good. Courteney Cox was always hot. I mean, she was always hot. And she was one of the few actresses, at least when she did Family Ties a decade earlier, I was told that she was so beautiful she never needed makeup. Courteney Cox. It's hard to believe in Hollywood. They always put makeup on people, but the people working at Family Ties said that she never really needed makeup. You know, Courteney Cox. That's how smoking hot she was back then, and she's still smoking hot. You know, today she's about almost 60 years old, believe it or not, and she's still smoking hot. Even though she was in one of the worst television shows ever made, in Friends, but I mean, there was a, even though that was a successful show, ratings wise, it still was a terrible show. You know, you have to suspend disbelief of watching Friends there, but I thought she was good in this movie. I thought everybody was quite good in this film, especially that one horror movie geek in the first movie who explains everything. So, this is not how it's done. It's not this way, and then guess what happens in the Scream movies? It is done that way, you know, in the Scream films. But I thought, like I said, it was entertaining for what it was, and I do like the movie. I do recommend the movie, especially if you like I said earlier, if you like the horror movie genre, the slasher movie genre, you can like these movies. And this is thanks for this is my review of the Scream movies. Can't you? I hope you please like the video, please rate it, please subscribe to my channel, please forward this video, please subscribe, please like this video, please share this video onto your Facebook pages. Thanks for watching, and catch you next time.